going to save you a bunch of time and just come right out and say that I like Bright quite a bit. That way, if you're one of the people who hated the movie, you can turn this video off right away and go back to watching your weird anime or whatever the fuck you're doing. But yeah, I actually like Bright quite a bit, and this falls in line with something that I've experienced in that, well, and this is nothing new, I'm sure you've experienced the same way. When you're expecting a lot out of a movie, when you have high expectations, it's easier to be disappointed. Whereas when you expect nothing of the movie, and in fact when all of the reviews are saying that it's a piece of garbage, I'm like, well, let's give this an honest chance. And that's what happened. I watched the movie a couple weeks ago and I actually liked it quite a bit. And I'm noticing that there's a really big split between what the audience thinks of the movie and what the critics thought of the movie. But even in the audience is being a lot more generous with Bright than the critics are. It's sitting right now at 27% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is pretty bad. But a lot of my friends enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for what it is. Again, maybe because I wasn't expecting much. The review said it was crap. So my expectation was so low, it could only go up from there. But I told some friends of mine that I liked Bright, and combined with the fact that I didn't like The Last Jedi, which was, I guess, a complete reversal. The critics liked The Last Jedi. The audience didn't care for it all that much. I mean, considering it's Star Wars, right? An audience reception of under 80% for Star Wars, to me at least, feels kind of weird. So a lot of my friends wrote me off completely based on that alone. I didn't like The Last Jedi, and I liked Bright. David Ayer, the director, if you remember, I'm not sure I'm clicking this pen, he came hot off the success of Suicide Squad. Now, I can't trash this guy that much. He wrote Training Day. If you're wondering why Bright has a bit of a Training Day flavor, that's why. And he was a Navy guy, apparently. I just found this out. So I can't talk too much shit about the guy. Max Landis, on the other hand, seen here like somebody I probably would hate if I knew him in real life. Look, I know I'm being prejudiced against the guy, okay? But Max Landis looks like the type of guy who wouldn't shut up about his vegan, gluten-free diet, and he would scoff at you for shopping at Walmart. So yeah, he did the screenplay for this movie, so yeah. Anyway, I was giving it a lot of thought this weekend, and I think I narrowed down the 3 reasons why some people really didn't care for Bright. The first reason is that it's not political enough. Now, one thing I saw when I was reading reviews and watching videos about Bright is that people seem to have watched 2 different movies. People who seem to lean towards the right end of the political spectrum thought it was too preachy and it was too holier than thou and it was too mired in the current political racial climate, and they were trying to make a point. Some people respond negatively to that. Now, the thing I thought was weird is that people that lean left thought it was too political as well, but the other way around. They thought it wasn't preachy enough, it didn't give a message, they thought that they were doing so well with the racial allegories that the movie employs, but they didn't go anywhere with it. They could have done more to propel a certain social justice agenda, but it fell flat. Like, for instance, one of the things I heard people complain is that the elves, who are some kind of like, they're the most privileged creatures in this universe, they're not portrayed as oppressors, and people on the left took offense to that. Right? Isn't political enough. It goes kind of right in the center. It shows the world for what it is. It doesn't try to convey any sort of moral message at the end of the day, and I guess that's why it rubbed both people the wrong way. When you take a middle-of-the-road approach, you end up angering both sides. I know this very well. On a daily basis, I'm called both a right-wing activist and a socialist cuck. Like, this happens literally every day with any political commentary I give on my main channel. I'm gonna get people that are offended that I'm a communist and people who are angry that I'm a right-wing reactionary. And I see the same thing happening with Bright. Its narrative isn't really fitting with either of these sides, so it's angering both. The other thing I will admit is not great about Bright, and it's probably one of the reasons a lot of people disliked it, is that the world building is very inconsistent. This is gonna seem like a nitpick, but it's the kind of thing that you might not know as you're watching, but your brain picks up on these things. At one point in the movie, we see that there are centaurs, and right then and there, again, I know this sounds like a nitpick, but right then and there, my brain came to a grinding halt. And I was like, but nothing about this world that we've been shown makes sense with centaurs existing. Because think about that, the buildings all look the same, vehicles all look the same, clothing, everything about the world looks the same, but that wouldn't be the case if we had centaurs to share the world with us. So I started wondering, like, do they not drive? That's why all the cars look human size? Do they just run everywhere? What about clothing? They don't wear clothes on their bottom, the horse part. Maybe it's just because this is a cop centaur and that's the way they... How do they wipe their ass? Do they just... Imagine centaur bathrooms. How do they wipe, honestly? How does that work? Is it acceptable for centaurs to just take a shit in the middle of the road because they're half horses? We are okay with horses doing that, but they're sentient beings. How does that work? Would it be racist to tell a centaur not to shit on the... How do they wipe their ass? I need to know this. Bright 2. Yo, Max Landis, figure this out for me. I need at least one line about that. At one point in the movie, Will Smith makes a reference to Shrek. And again, my brain just... No, that doesn't work. Because this is a movie, a universe, where the creatures in fairy tales exist. The mythical creatures exist. So in this world, and I doubt that the circumstances in this world would allow for a movie like Shrek to be made, for stories about mythical beings to even exist the way they do. And I have, I think, a perfect example that shows how Max Landis and David Ayer didn't give this a lot of thought. They were more concerned about writing, I think, a quippy one-liner than to make their world building. Take Watchmen, for instance. In Watchmen, superheroes, or rather heroes, with the exception of one guy, Dr. Manhattan, are real. There are costume vigilantes going around punching people in the face and doing superhero-y stuff. As a result of this, superhero comic books aren't a thing in this universe. They explain that because heroes are a thing, nobody cares for hero comic books, and the thing in this universe is pirate comic books. In fact, one of them, The Black Freighter, if I remember correctly, or Tales of the Black Freighter, is shown in parts of the story. See, this is interesting world building. It shows us, it gives us a premise, and then it imagines what would be different in the world if this premise were true. So, in this book, heroes exist, therefore no hero comic books. There's nothing like that in Bright. And again, it sounds like a nitpick, but your brain notices these things without you knowing. And finally, the confusing plot. I like the movie for what it is, right? My expectations were low. But it wasn't just once that I had to stop the movie, go on Wikipedia, and read the plot synopsis up until where I was so I wouldn't catch any spoilers to really make sense of what was going on. There are some moments where things happen that I'm like, is this the first time this is being introduced in the story? Did I miss something? Did I zone out? What is this supposed to be a mystery and this is why it doesn't make a lot of sense, or does it just not make a lot of sense? Like, I kept expecting in some points for a piece of information to come in and make sense of what was going on, but not sure if that had already happened, to the point that I had to look up the plot synopsis on Wikipedia. That is bad screenplay writing right there. I should not be going on my phone to look up companion literature to make sense of the story. Everything should be on the screen. And I think that's because they try to introduce too many world building elements at once, and this would make a lot more sense. I think this would have benefited for if instead of a movie, Bright were a series where we'd see these things fleshed out more, we'd have more time to explain these concepts. We were trying to cram a lot of things, a lot of world building to however long this movie is. How long is this movie? 118 minutes. By the way, movies are getting longer, huh? So yeah, the movie is a little too confusing for its own good. There's a lot of things that pop up and you're like, did I miss something? And that's never a good thing. That's never a good thing in a story. Anyway, these are the 3 reasons I think a lot of people didn't care for Bright that much. Again, I liked it for what it is. I wasn't expecting much. And I'm very demanding when I'm paying money and I'm getting dressed and I'm going out of my house. I love my house. I don't like going out all that much. And I go someplace and I have to pay to see this and I have to pay for the popcorn and then I have to sit through the thing, and it takes a lot, right? It's much more effort than sitting on my couch and watching something on Netflix. So I'm a little more forgiving. Maybe that's why I like Bright. But let me know what you thought. Did you like the movie? Were you confused at points as well? Did you hate the movie? Did you write off its sequel completely? Let me know in the comments below. And that's all the time I have for today. I'll see you guys next time.